Let's start. So here in this chapter, because again, the focus is on the amounts that will be presented subsequent to the acquisition date. Again, the questions here can range from questions from the perspective of the parent, from the perspective of the subsidiary, and third, from the perspective of the consolidated entity. Common questions in the previous chapters were what amounts are to be reported immediately after the combination in the consolidated or combined financial statements. The same questions will still be asked in this chapter. But again, the focus now is not on the date of acquisition, but on the financial statements that will be prepared subsequent to the acquisition date. And if you'll recall, class, you're asked to compute for combined assets, combined liabilities. We just rely on the amounts reported by the branch and, amounts reported by the parent and the amounts of the assets and liabilities of the subsidiary at their fair value. But on the subsequent periods, class, we can rely on the records of the parent, but we can no longer rely on the records of the subsidiary. That is if we are trying to solve for amounts to be reported by the consolidated entity. Because the valuations that will be used by the consolidated entity will now be different from the amounts maintained in the books of the subsidiary. The amounts in the books of the subsidiary are obviously still at their book values, while the amounts that will be reported by the consolidated entity will start at the fair value. Okay? The subsequent fair values will not be relevant. What will be relevant will be the fair value at the date of acquisition and their carrying amount or subsequent measurement based on that fair value. Okay? And I'm talking about this one because I want to highlight, class, that if you had problems in the previous chapters, do not expect those problems to resolve by themselves in this chapter. In fact, you can expect your problems to worsen, class. Okay? If you cannot get those amounts correct, class, if you cannot get the amounts at the date of acquisition correct, then definitely the subsequent amounts or the amounts to be reported in the financial statement subsequent to the acquisition date would also be incorrect. Okay, so it's very important that you will be able to resolve any issues that you have from the earlier chapters. Now, aside from those, common question here would be how much would be the consolidated income? How much would be the combined income? And again, why was that not asked in the previous chapter? Why is that not a common question in the previous chapter? Because at the date of acquisition, there is no operations yet to be reported. No income or loss yet to be reported. So the consolidated income to be reported would be the income earned by the components of the consolidated entity beginning from the acquisition date down to the reporting date. Okay, so in the previous chapters, no questions on consolidated income because again, there's no income to report of, no results of operations yet. And the added difficulty now to your financial statement subsequent to the acquisition date would be the inclusion of your operations or the results of your operations. And of course, class, if you have income, what will it affect? It will affect your retained earnings, meaning your equity will also be affected. Okay, and problems in this chapter tend to be more difficult or creates an impression of being more difficult, class. It's because the process would be longer. Okay, we are already on a subsequent period, man. We will have to rely on amounts that will be given as of the acquisition date. Then you will have to account for the transactions for the operating period or the reporting period. And it will even be more difficult if the questions would be on the 5th year, 10th year, so on and so forth. Okay. But first, I want us to focus now on the computation of the consolidated income, class. Basically, you can say that it's just the income of the parent plus the income of the subsidiary. But because again, we are computing for the income from the perspective or from the eyes of the consolidated entity, we must use the figures that is acceptable to the consolidated entity. And the problem with just adding the income reported by the parent and the income reported by the subsidiary is that the consolidated entity tend to not agree with all the amounts that will be reported by the subsidiary specially. Okay, and again, one reason here would be, for example, your depreciation. What is the depreciation expense reported by the subsidiary? It will be based on its recorded cost. It will be based its own. It would be based. It would be based on its own book value. But if you ask the consolidated entity what would be the depreciation expense held by the subsidiary, then the consolidated entity would say that the depreciation expense should be based on the value of the depreciable asset from the eyes of the consolidated entity. And what is the valuation of this depreciable asset in the eyes of the consolidated entity? Is it the same as the book value in the books of the subsidiary? No, it would be based on the fair value, the date of acquisition. Because of the differences in the book value, the fair value, there will be differences in the amounts reported by the subsidiary and the amount that should be reported by the consolidated entity. But again, if there are no issues lang, if the scenario is very simple, consolidated income will just be the income of the parent plus the income of the subsidiary. Now, there will be added difficulty class if the problem specifies what method you would be using, whether you'd be using the entity approach or the parent approach. First, the entity approach class. Basically, the income of the entity as a whole, meaning the parent and the subsidiary. And this is where our oversimplified formula comes in. Income of the parent plus income of the subsidiary. And that would be your consolidated income under the entity approach. How then is the parent approach different from the entity approach? Under the parent approach class, you remove the portion that is not attributable to the parent. Okay? For the income reported by the parent class, who has rights over that income? It would be the parent. But as regards the income reported by the subsidiary, who has claims over the income of the subsidiary? Will it just be the parent? No, it will be both the parent as the controlling interest and your non-controlling interest. So basically, your consolidated income under the parent approach will just be your consolidated income under the entity approach, but remove or deduct the amount attributable to your non-controlling interest. Deduct the share of the non-controlling interest in the income of the subsidiary. Okay, so if you check your textbook, in computing for the consolidated income under the parent approach, you would still be passing through the consolidated income under the entity approach. Because income of the parent plus income of the subsidiary, that's the consolidated income under the entity approach. Deduct the share of the NCI in the income of the subsidiary, then that would be the consolidated income under the parent approach, or the consolidated income attributable to the parent. Okay? But again, that would be our oversimplified view of how to determine your consolidated income, but it will not always be as simple as that. Okay? You will have to be careful. The income given in the problem for the parent, does it already include dividend income received from the subsidiary? If so, then you should remove that because that would result in double recognition of the income of the subsidiary. Okay? So you will now have to be careful. Income reported by the parent is different from income of the parent from its own operations. Okay? And it's very important that you remember that there is a distinction class. Okay? Otherwise, you will just end up adding everything that is given in the problem. Okay? So again, it's very important for you to understand. The income reported in the financial statements of the parent is different from the income of the parent from its own operations. Okay, and what would be the primary distinction class? The net income of the parent, based on its own income statement, will include dividend income. Okay, will include income from the subsidiary. So remove that one. It should just be your income from own operations. So you'll just have to be careful on how the amounts are given in the problem. And let's try to determine problems from the textbook that would help us practice the computation of consolidated income. Let's have 15-6. question here is, what is the consolidated income? CI again here is comprehensive income class. Okay, some would think that CI is consolidated income, but that would be incorrect, because if that's the case, this would be, what is the consolidated income? The CI there represents comprehensive income. What is the consolidated income of Puno Corporation and subsidiary for year 2017? Puno Corporation owned 90% interest in a purchase subsidiary, Salas Company, which was accounted for by the cost method. During the year 2017, Puno Corporation had 145,000 income and Salas had an income of 120,000. Salas Company declared and paid 40,000 dividend during the year. There were no differences between the current fair values and book values of Salas Company's identifiable net assets, meaning there will be no need for adjustments on the income of the subsidiary. The consolidated entity can rely on the net income of the subsidiary. And there was no goodwill in the business combination. What is the consolidated income of Puno Corporation? So you add, how much is the income of the parent class? You will have 145,000. And then how much is the income of the subsidiary? That would be 120. But if you add the two class, 145 and 120, you would get how much? 265. And that is incorrect, because how is the 145,000 presented in the problem class? This is the comprehensive income, meaning this is the net income of the parent. And what does that mean? This would have included already the income received from the subsidiary. And what income is that? That would be your dividend income. How do we know that there will be dividend income here? Because the investment in subsidiary was accounted for by the cost method. It's different if the equity method was used. If it's the cost method class, what will the parent do? Upon receipt of the dividends class, it will debit. If you receive cash dividends, what will be your entry? Debit, cash, and your credit would not be the investment, but your credit would be dividend income. You will not touch the investment in subsidiary account under the cost method. Okay, even if you receive cash from the subsidiary, do not touch the investment in subsidiary. So, since the cost method was used, then definitely the parent will be recognizing a dividend income, and its comprehensive income would definitely include any reported dividend income. So the question now is, was there any dividend income recognized and reported by the parent? The answer is yes, because the problem said the subsidiary paid out how much dividends? 40,000. Now, is the 40,000 the amount of dividend income for the parent? No, because the amount, what do you call this? Given or distributed to the parent is not the entire 40, but only its share. How much is the share of the parent in the dividends of the subsidiary? Only 90%. So the dividend income or the dividend received by the parent must have been 90% only of 40%. And that would be 36,000. Okay? So what we really need is not the net income of the parent class, but the income of the parent from its own operations. And unfortunately, the 145 is not yet the income from its own operation. So what do we have to do? Deduct the dividend income of 36,000. So 145 minus 36 will give you how much? 109,000. So the income of the parent from its own operations plus the income of the subsidiary of 120 will give you how much? 229,000. And that will already be our answer. And what will be the takeaway from this problem? Again, be careful if what's given is the income from own operations or still the net income or the comprehensive income. Again, what we need is the income from its own, the income of the parent from its own operations. And I hope you understand why we will have to remove the dividend income. Because again, what's the source of the dividend income class? When will the subsidiary declare dividends? When will the subsidiary declare dividends? Only if it has profit or income. Okay? So if we are receiving dividend income from the subsidiary, that means the subsidiary was profitable. So it will just result in double recognition of the same income. So in what we need is the income from the income of the parent from its own operations. In this case, not the 145, but the 109. Let's try to look for other problems wherein the focus is on consolidated income. Let's have 15-7. How is 15-7 different from 15-6? In 15-6, it asks for the consolidated income of both the parent and the subsidiary. But how is the question phrased in problem 15-7? The consolidated income attributable to the parent. So what does this mean? Basically, this would be using the parent approach. Class, for this kind of question, I do not expect you to get confused. It is understandable that you will be removing the share of the non-controlling interest. Okay, but where does it become relevant, class, that you know the difference between the entity and the parent approach? Depending on the question, class, some question would immediately say, how much is the consolidated income under the entity approach? How much is the consolidated income under the parent approach? If you do not make yourselves familiar with the terminology, class, you'll get confused, or not really confused. You will just be unsure of your answer. Okay? Especially if the scenario is asking for consolidated income using the entity approach. If you have never encountered entity approach, you would not be sure on what to do. If it asks for consolidated income under the parent approach, it will give you a hint. It will give you an idea that if it's parent approach, then it will just be the income attributable to parent. But for those completely unfamiliar with the parent and the entity approach, class, if they are asked compute for consolidated income under the entity approach, they will be unsure as to what they would be doing, whether it's the total consolidated income or just the amount attributable to the parent. Okay, so in this case, there's no problem. Okay, the question is specific. Again, it's common for students to get confused if the question will just say consolidated income using the entity approach. And again, if it's the entity approach, does it include or exclude the share of the NCI in the income of the subsidiary, class? Entity approach, it still includes the share of the NCI. But here, what's the question? Income attributable to the parent. So what does this mean? Exclude the share of the NCI in the income of the subsidiary. Now, what's given in this problem? Already from its own operations. And did the subsidiary declare dividends, class? Let's focus on subsidiary. How much dividends was declared and paid with the subsidiary? 120. And how much is our share in the dividends of the subsidiary? 80. How much is 80% of 120? 96. Do we need to deduct 96 from the 1 million of the parent, class? No, because the income is already from its own operations. How is this different from the previous problem? It was the comprehensive income. Okay, it did not say that it was from its own operations. Okay, unless if it specifies, class, that it is just from its own operations, then that would mean it included all sources of income and revenue. Okay, do you get the scenario I'm trying to avoid, class? You might have encountered only problems wherein you had to deduct dividend income. Then here comes problem 15-7. There will be no need to deduct dividend income because in the first place, it is not included in the amount given. Okay, because the amount given specified that it is already from its own operations. And it makes sense, class. Dividend income is not an income from your own operations. It's more of an investing income. Okay, but is there a difference between the market value and the book value? No, so we can rely on the income reported by the subsidiary. Okay, so income of the parent from its own operations is 1 million. Okay, again, this is what we need, class, income from its own operations. But why will some solutions not start from income from own operations? because you will not always be given from with the income from own operations of the parent. What can sometimes be given? Simply the comprehensive income of the parent, which includes dividend income. If you're given with the comprehensive income, just deduct dividend income and you will already be able to get your comprehensive income from own operations. So 1 million plus 200, the answer is not 1,200,000 because the question here is income attributable to the parent. What would be the question wherein your answer would be 1,200,000 class? The consolidated income lang. Compute for the consolidated income or the consolidated income using the entity approach. Okay, but again, with the 1,200,000, what else do we have to do? Simply deduct the share of the NCI. And how much is the NCI in this problem? 20%. And how much is the share of the NCI? 40,000, that is 20% of 200, and that will give you 40. You remove 40, that means 160 plus 1 million, you would get 1,160,000. Okay, I hope you absorb the difference between the procedure in 15-6 and 15-7. Let's skip 15-8 first. Also in 15-9. Let's have 15-13. So 15-13, similar to 15-7 or similar to 15-6? 7, because the question is attributable to parent. Why do you think questions would be more on this kind class? It would be, the process would be longer. I do not want to say that it is more difficult. It's really not that significantly more difficult. It's just that you will have to do one more additional step. So what do we need? Income of the parent from its own operations and the income of the subsidiary. Are we given with the income of the parent class? Presto Corporation reported income of 140,000. Do we need to deduct dividend income from 140,000? No, because how is the 140,000 introduced in the problem? It is already from its own operations. So what else do we need? Just the income of the subsidiary. Stork reported net income of 80,000 for 2017 and paid no dividends. And also it did not pay any dividends. Prior to the acquisition, Stork company had 2017 revenues of 95,000 and expenses of 72,000. Okay. So, how much is the no issue for the fair value and the book values class. Okay, so there will be no adjustments for the income of the subsidiary. Okay, how much is the income of the subsidiary? 80. And you add that with 140, that will give you 220. And then you deduct 10%. That will give you 212. But why is that not the answer, class? Because the parent is not entitled to the entire 80,000. Why do we say that the parent is not entitled to the entire 80,000, class? Because the parent was able to have ownership in the subsidiary only on March 21, 2017. So what do we have to do? Exclude the income earned prior to March 21. And are we given with any information regarding this one, class? Yes, prior to the acquisition, there were revenues of 95 and expenses of 72. That means there was already income of how much? 8 and 15, 23,000. Does everyone get the 23, class? Yes. And this 23 was earned before the parent was in the picture. So the parent will not have any involvement in this one. Okay, so deduct the 23 from 80. The income wherein the parent is already involved will only be 57,000. And you add 57, you add 140 income of the parent from his own operations, and the 57 income earned by the subsidiary subsequent to the date of acquisition, you would get 197. But why is that still not the answer? Because you have to remove the share of the NCI. How much is the share of the NCI? 10%. How much is 10% of 57,000? 5.7. So deduct 5.7 from the 197, you would get 191,300. Okay, let's have 15-15, but let's just answer the consolidated income lang sa. 15-15 is asking for consolidated comprehensive income and consolidated retained earnings. Okay, what's the scenario here? Do we need adjustments? On January 2, 2016, Pepe Corporation purchased 70%. At that date, Season had 577 outstanding retained earnings. Equipment with a remaining life of 5 years at a book value of 280 and a fair value of 300. Okay. And then is the question in 2017. Okay. So the procedure would be quite long, class. And a fair value of 300. Season's remaining assets had book values equal to their fair values. All intangibles except goodwill are expected to have remaining lives of 10 years. The comprehensive income and dividend figures for both Pepe and Sison are as follows. Pepe Corporation, as shown, does not include any dividend income. Class, if the problem already tells you, class, it does not include any dividend income, should you insist on deducting? Okay, so understand, Kasa, that you do not have, basically the amount given there for Pepe is already from its own operations. Let's start with 2016 first. How much is the income of the parent from its own operations? It will be already 185. Now, how much is the income reported by the subsidiary class? 40. But the problem is the consolidated entity cannot rely on the amount reported by the subsidiary. Why? Because the subsidiary depreciated its asset using what? The book value of 280. Okay? While the consolidated entity believes that the same equipment should be depreciated by using a depreciable cost of 300,000. If the book value was 280 in the books of the subsidiary class and it has a remaining life of 5 years, how much was the depreciation expense reported by the subsidiary? What do? Divide 280 by 5. Okay, and that will give you 56,000. That means in the computation of the 40,000 income of the subsidiary, there was a depreciation expense of 56,000. Now, how much is the depreciation expense in the eyes of the consolidated entity class? It should be 300,000 divided by 5, and that would be 60. Class, do we deduct the 60 from 40, class? No, because aside from the fact it will make it negative, class, the amount that would be deducted should not be the 60. It should just be the difference, class. Okay? How much depreciation expense was already incorporated in the 40,000 income? 56. But how much is the correct depreciation expense in the eyes of the consolidated entity? 60. So in the eyes of the consolidated entity, what is the status of the depreciation expense? Over or understated? Understated. By how much? 4,000. If expenses are understated, what would be the effect on the income? So that means in the eyes of the consolidated entity, the income of the subsidiary is overstated by 4,000. And what do we do? Deduct the 4,000 from 40,000. Okay? And where did we get the 4,000, class? We got that by getting the difference between 56 and 60. Okay? Because that's actually what's happening here. why there is a need to amortize the excess. The 4,000 here will be referred to as the amortization of the excess. That is what is being discussed in your textbook. Okay? But again, the source of this 4,000 is really just the difference between the depreciation expense reported by the subsidiary and the depreciation expense that should be reported in the consolidated financial statements class. Okay? But if you're familiar only with the amortization of the excess, how else can you solve for the 4,000 class? How else can you solve for the 4,000? Get the difference between 280 and 300. And the 20,000 is basically the excess. 20,000 divided by 5 will still give you the 4,000. But my problem with that solution class is that it does not explain to you what is this 4,000. You're just being told that is the amortization of the excess. But again, that really is just the difference between the expenses reported by the subsidiary and the amount of expense that should be reported in the eyes of the consolidated entity. Okay? And if you do not understand the story behind the amortization of the excess class, you would not know whether it should be added or deducted. You will only think that amortization of the excess will always be a deduction. Okay? The treatment could be different class. If it's the fair value that is lesser, then the adjustment would be an addition. What do I mean? If the fair value is 280 class and the book value is 300, how much was the depreciation expense reported by the subsidiary? It will now be the 60. But how much should be the depreciation expense in the eyes of the consolidated entity? It would be 56. But what is incorporated in the 40,000 income? It would be the 60. So in the eyes of the consolidated entity, the depreciation expense is overstated. So in the eyes of the consolidated entity, the income is understated. And what should be the adjustment? The adjustment should be an addition. Okay, that's why I want you to understand the story behind the amortization of the excess. Otherwise, you would always think that the amortization of the excess would always just be a deduction. Okay, but that again, that is not always the case. Now going back, what adjustments do we need to do to the 40,000 class? Was it deduct or add? Deduct. So the adjusted income of the subsidiary, we will call the 36,000 as the adjusted income class. The adjusted income of the subsidiary would be the 36,000. And it is this 36,000 that we will add with your 185,000. How much is 185 plus 36? 21? 221. But why is that not in the choices? Because we are not asked for 2016. We are asked for 2017. But if you are asked, class, how much is the considered income in 2016? Our answer would be 221,000. Let's proceed to 2017. What's the first thing we need? We need the income of the parent from its own operations. Is it already the 210 class? Yes. Now, what else do we need? We need the income of the subsidiary. But again, always the adjusted class. Always solve for the adjusted income of the subsidiary. Do we have possible adjustments to the income of the subsidiary? Yes, arising from the excess of the fair value over the book value. But again, this is basically just the difference in their depreciation expense. And by virtue of the excess class, what adjustment is needed on the income of the subsidiary? There will be a addition or deduction. Deduction of how much? 4,000. Okay, that means the adjusted income of the subsidiary would be 63,000. You add that with 210,000. How much will that give you? 273,000. And that would already be our answer. We'll solve for the consolidated retained earnings later na lang. Let's try to look for consolidated income. Plus, it's important that you have a good understanding on the computation of consolidated income first, because it will have a cascading effect on your retained earnings and in your NCI. Okay? So if your consolidated income is wrong, class, then you would expect that your retained earnings and your NCI would also be wrong. Let's have 15-18. What amount of consolidated income attributable to the parent? So again, class, between the two, income attributable to the parent or income under the entity approach, the former is more common, class. So anytime you will be asked simply for the consolidated income or the consolidated income under the entity approach, treat it as a bonus question, class. It is an attempt of the exam to be kind to you, class. Okay, because again, the more common question will be the income attributable to the parent. But I hope you'll agree, class, that the difference is not that big, class. If you can solve for one, you should be able to solve for either, class. You should be able to solve for both. Question here is income attributable to the parent. What's the first thing we need? Income of the parent from its own operations. What's given here? Pablo Corporation reported comprehensive income is 130. And the problem is even making it obvious, class, that the 130 includes dividend income. So is this the income of the parent from its own operations? No. What do we need to do to get our income from own operations? Remove the dividend income included in the 130. How much dividend income is included in the 130? What do you need to check? You check the dividends issued by the or declared by the subsidiary. How much dividends was distributed by the subsidiary, class? 40. So do we deduct the entire 40,000 from the 130? No, because the parent does not receive the entire 40. The parent will only get its share. And how much is the share of the parent, class? 70%. How much is 70% of 40? 28,000. So that means if you are asked how much is the dividend income of the parent, your answer would be 28,000. You deduct the 28,000 from 130, you will get 102,000. And how do we call the 102,000? This is the income of the parent from its own operations. If we already have the income of the parent from its own operations, what else do we need to do? Add the adjusted income of the subsidiary. Do we have the income of the subsidiary, class? Yes. Do we have any potential adjustments to the income of the subsidiary? Do we have any excess to amortize? No. There was no purchase difference at the time of investment. So how much is the difference? Sorry, there's no difference lagi. So the problem is very easy. We just have to add 70 with 102, and 70 plus 102 would be 172,000. But that is not the answer because we're looking for the consolidated income attributable to the parent. Okay, what then do we need to do? Deduct the share of the NCI. How much is the share of the NCI? 30% of 70,000. That will give you 21,000. Deduct 21,000 from 172, you would get 151,000. Okay, let's end here. You got bored of how easy the